Exactly, that's what happens.
Madeline, thank you. If you join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll wait for whoever just walked in the door.
She's ready.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Mason, roll call, please. Ms. Bates?
Yes, here.
Mr. Eden?
Here.
Mrs. Fryrick?
Here.
Ms. Leopold Sharp? Here. Mr. Posnow?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mrs. Schrader?
Here.
Ms. Schaefer?
Here.
And Mr. Toman.
Here.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is our monthly voting meeting. We will accept public comment at 2 times during this meeting. Anyone in the audience is welcome to step up to the microphone now. We just ask that you identify yourself by name and address. You may speak on any topic, something that's on the agenda, something that's not on the agenda. We welcome your input. If there were many speakers, we would limit those to 5 minutes. I'm not sure that'll be a difficulty this evening. There'll also be a period of time at the end of the meeting for public comment or comments in reaction to what we've done this evening. There will not be, for a voting meeting, we don't have comment before each of our votes. So would anyone like to address the board this evening? Your name and address, please.
My name is Angela Brown. I reside at 815 Clearmount Road. I have sent an email, a letter to the board members and to Dr. Merkel. My concern is the walking zone for Valley View. I'm not opposed to my child walking to school. I just think that the infrastructure needs to be in place to make sure that they are safe routes. Currently, there's no signs warning people that they're entering a zone where children are walking to school. There are inadequate sidewalks and inadequate crosswalks for the students. On Midland Road, we have a lot of traffic going to and from the college in the mornings and in the afternoons. And on Hill Street, with the buses entering and exiting in the afternoon for pickup of the students, it's a very difficult intersection to navigate with children in tow, as well as the shortcut people tend to take on Grandview to get around the cemetery. And I would just appreciate it if the board would request new studies from PennDOT to evaluate the whether they're hazardous or not, those routes with regards to visibility and volume of traffic. In the meantime, until there are either signs or reduced speeds or something to ensure the safety of my child, I would request that she be allowed to ride the bus that stops one house over from us and is half empty. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I won't address the whole statement. We'll do that privately, but I will let the board know that a request has been submitted to study Hill and Midland. We don't anticipate a change, but we never know. So that was submitted some weeks ago.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this point? If not, then I would ask for approval of the minutes from our Planning Committee meeting of January 9th and also from the regular monthly meeting of December 19th, 2016.
So moved. Second.
All right. Any comments, corrections, or changes to those? If not, they will be submitted as presented. Thank you. Mr. Posnow, the Treasurer's Report.
Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions with any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
Ms. Mason. Oh. He does need a second, yes. That can be a short roll call, Ms. Mason.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Anything else, Mr. Posnow? As board president, it's my duty to report that the board met following our planning meeting on January the 9th, 2017 in executive session, as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act, for the purpose of discussing legal matters. No official action was taken. And we also met prior to this evening's meeting for an educational session in executive session, as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act for educational purposes. No official action was taken. Dr. Merkel.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I'd like to acknowledge our school board. January is School Board Recognition Month, and there are few words that could express the gratitude that I, as a superintendent, the administration of York Suburban, our teachers, but most importantly, our community have for the work that our school board does. There's a lot of hours that go into it. I think sometimes people think that all of the work is done in these public meetings. We have committee meetings. There's lots of homework and research that goes into it, and a lot of communication between constituents and board members, administrators and board members, and we are very, very grateful for your service. To that end, we have a few small tokens of our appreciation. In front of the board members, you'll find a thermos, mug, cup, with a small note on it. The thermos is in honor of our Blue Ribbon High School. And again, every time we talk about a Blue Ribbon school, we talk about a Blue Ribbon district because we have fantastic feeder schools into that high school. So please enjoy that, as well as a coaster honoring the same. And then finally, well, not finally, a few more, there is a wristband there. The wristband wasn't necessarily developed for this, but Project Harmony at the high school had a function last week where they did students and administrators could sign up to shoot a foul shot, to reach for respect, to demonstrate support for the No Name Calling initiative. And as a result of that, participants received a wristband, and the advisor and students asked that I make sure that each of the board members receive one of those wristbands. So wear that in solidarity with our students. And I will tell you that on my warm-up shot, I missed everything, but on my one shot that I got, I hit the rim, so I was feeling really good. And I won't say what high school administrator airballed both of theirs. But
So Nova isn't calling.
It's correct. And then finally, I hope board members did have the opportunity to see the op-ed piece in Sunday's paper. It's a nice opportunity, in my opinion, to share thoughts with respect to the board, a gratitude and respect for what you do, as well as to promote the idea of being a school board member and the presentation that we'll conduct tomorrow night. So you want to be a school board member. For any members in the audience who might think they want to be a school board member, we do have a superintendent from Southwestern who will join us, as well as a board member from Southwestern. Ms. Leopold Sharp will be on the panel, as well as Mr. Robinson, one of our newer board members. So expecting a turnout and hope to see some of our audience members there perhaps. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at Valley View. Next on the superintendent's report is the student enrollment report, and there is no significant change. We have the month-to-month fluctuation as always. Are there any questions? Next up is the school calendar for the 2017-18 school year. The administration recommends board approval of the calendar as presented. Are there any questions?
So moved. Second.
Oh, thank you.
Any discussion? Ms. Mason, that can be a short roll call.
Will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
There'll be a special reward for the board for the fastest calendar approval that we've ever had, perhaps. Next up is a real happy celebration. The administration recommends board approval of the graduation of Molly Sargent, who successfully met all the requirements of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the York Suburban School District during her first semester of full-time concurrent enrollment at the Penn State University York campus.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
Is she here?
No.
Ms. Mason, let's have a roll call by name for that tonight.
Okay, Leopold Sharp,
Yes.
Thoman,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Posnow,
Yes.
Bates,
Yes.
Fryrick.
Yes.
Thank you, and congratulations to Molly. The administration recommends board approval of the renaming of the French Society to the French Club.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? We can do that on a short roll call.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
The administration recommends board approval of the York Suburban School District Counseling Plan as presented to the board on November 7th of 2016 and was attached for your review.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussions? Short roll call, Ms. Mason.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you. Next up is property tax legislation, this is as much for the information of our community that the administration is in fact closely monitoring discussions at the state level with regard to property tax elimination, which isn't really truly a property tax elimination, but there is potential for tremendous ramifications for public schools in Pennsylvania. We're closely monitoring that. We expect that we'll have some information to share with the community. We think it's important that our community members become informed about potential legislation that we anticipate within the coming month. The implications are significant for public education in Pennsylvania, and we need to have our community well aware of the implications. PASBO has provided support to the board this evening, and we will rely on them going forward to get concrete data to share with community members so there's a clear understanding of what this tax plan could do for individual homeowners and all tax-paying citizens.
Could you just, PASBO?
PASBO is Pennsylvania Association of School Board Officials, School Business Officials, I apologize, School Business Officials. So it's members like our Director of Finance it's a professional organization to support school business operations. Okay, and finally, under the superintendent's report is a mid-year review of our district goals. Again, a little bit different than we did in previous years. I tried to put this on a one-pager to give you a snapshot view of what each of the 4 goals are and the primary action steps underneath each. And largely, I will tell you that we are making progress on all goals. There are some that have been completed to date. There are some that we have considerable work to do. There are none that I am concerned that we will not meet, and there are none that have been significantly revised to the point where there's any real transition in our action steps or intentions for completion. We do anticipate utilizing this format to work with our association with fireside chats going forward. Again, we think that the familiarity with the 4 goals that we have each year is important. We think the accountability to the board as well as to the community to fulfill these goals is important, and most importantly, the accountability to one another. As we as an administrative team work together to fulfill these goals, we think it's important that we provide you with updates. So largely our 4 goals, we're very pleased with the progress to date. We certainly have our hands full in the coming months, but pleased with progress to date. Are there any questions? Okay, and that concludes my report. Thank you for your attention and support.
Thank you, Dr. Ms. Mason, the Business Office report.
Thank you. The administration recommends board approval of the IRS mileage reimbursement rate of 53.5 cents per mile for the 2017 calendar year. The rate for the 2016 calendar year was 54 cents.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Short roll call, Ms. Mason.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Next item, the administration recommends board approval of the closing of the National English Honor Society, the National French Honor Society, National German Honor Society, and National Spanish Honor Society student activity accounts to be consolidated into the National Honor Society. Consolidating these accounts into one is the premise that the honor societies will work collectively when fundraising. This will also increase the number of students participating in given efforts while not having the students participating in multiple fundraisers across the various organizations.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Short roll call.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration submits the proposed 2017-18 York County School of Technology budget for consideration and approval.
So moved.
Second?
Ms. Schrader, do you have any comment to make on that?
Not really. I think we previously mentioned that the, School of Technology worked very hard to keep increases to, bare minimum, and I encourage you to support their budget.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I would add, keep their budget to a minimum while increasing their academic performance standard, which, what really impressed me.
Thank you, Mrs. Posnell. Mrs. Farish?
I was just wondering if, for those who might come after and see this, if it is worth putting in a change to the, motion, to indicate, I believe it's just a 1.6% increase for York Suburban, while the overall increase is 2.5%, I believe. Is that what you reported out?
2.42.
2.42 increase, but our actual increase for Suburban was 1.609, I thought.
It's 1.6.
1.6. I thought that might,
Well, if you want to amend the motion, you can certainly do that.
I would offer an amendment to the motion that we so indicate that York Suburban's,
In the minutes.
Oh, we can go in the minutes.
If you
so
just
we
go
don't-
in
Your comments are reflected, so it'll attach right underneath.
okay.
That's
Okay,
perfect.
that's fine, just so it's there for anybody
Absolutely.
that might see that in the future.
Thank you. Anything else? Ms. Mason, would you do a roll call on this, please?
Bates,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Leopold Sharp, Schrader,
Yes.
Posnell,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Fryrick,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Toman.
Yes.
The administration recommends board approval of the 3-year agreement with Cummins Power Systems LLC for district-wide preventive maintenance services for backup generators at a total cost of $14,271.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Short roll call, Ms. Mason?
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval of the transportation plan between York Suburban School District and York County Children and Youth Agency. This plan is designed to govern how transportation will be provided to students in foster care in order to maintain their placement in their schools of origin when in their best interest as mandated by ESEA.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Short roll call on this.
I think it's appropriate to comment on this. ESSA, we learned, as new legislation set forth, by the previous federal administration is put on hold, for 60 days because of presidential action taken by new President Trump. All that legislation has been put on hold for 60 days, which means we're not sure of what the implications are for the Title IV money that will fund the transportation plan. And so without that knowledge, we're approving a plan with no knowledge of whether or not it will be funded. Again, that's a 60-day hold on that, and we'll see what comes after that.
Questions for Dr. Merkel?
So should we still do it, or are we required? It's still mandated that,
We are mandated by the state despite their mixed opinions as to whether or not it will be funded. We checked with PDE today to ensure that we should go through with board action tonight.
Dr. Merkel, might we be mandated to do it even if it's not funded?
I would say that's certainly possible.
Why am I not surprised? All right. In light of that those enlightening pieces of information, Ms. Mason, we can do a short roll call on this as well.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Let's see. The administration recommends board approval of the Memorandum of Understanding between York Suburban School District and York County Children and Youth Agency for Transportation Procedures. The two entities collaborated on the design of the plan.
So moved.
second.
Any questions or discussion? A short roll call on this.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval of a contract authorizing the consultative services of Bridget Englert to work with the administrative team on the enhancement of engagement practices for all students and families. Such services include workshop and meeting facilitation, research, and small group discussions.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or discussions? Dr. Merkel or
The
Ms.
motion?
Day?
It's written in the contract that we're approving. Do we need the amount in the
It
motion?
doesn't have to be in the motion, I mean, if someone wants to know what it is, it's a public contract, but it doesn't have to be in the motion.
I'm
You can state the rate,
I'm recalling it,
maybe?
or, Corinne, do you know it off the top of your head, Mrs. Mason?
I do not.
I believe it's
Not
$1,000 with the opportunity to renew up to $1,200, but
Okay.
it's gonna take me a few minutes to get there. When
I
do you have
think
easy
that's
access?
adequate.
Could we, thank you,
Can we
Mr.
add it to the
Toman.
minutes?
Mr. Toman clarified that, in fact, that's what it is.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Ms. Mason, why don't you, do this as a voice roll call?
Osnow,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Bates,
Yes.
Fryrick,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Schaefer, Robinson,
Yes.
Toman, Leopold Sharp.
Yes.
The administration recommends board approval of the agreement with Executive Coach, Inc. to take high school English students to Manhattan, New York on Thursday, April 6, 2017, for a total cost of $4,580 for 2 buses.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or discussion? That can be,
what are they going to see?
Museums.
Museums.
Wicked.
No, that's the other group.
Oh, that's the
oh, 2 groups. Ms. Mason, short roll call on this.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The 2 informational items from the Food Service Department are the dining review report for December and sales activity report. Any questions? That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Yes, but I was going to do something similar. So
okay.
before we get to you, Mr. Stewart, I just wanted to say for our younger visitors this evening, you just heard us approve a whole lot of things and we didn't talk about them at all. That's because we meet twice a month, and at our monthly planning meeting, which was 2 weeks ago, that's when we would discuss the pros and cons of these various contracts. We would ask questions. And so I didn't want you to think that we're not doing due diligence and really researching what we're voting on. We're just 2 weeks after gaining all that information. And Dr. Merkel now wanted to say something.
I was remiss in my remarks not to welcome you. So Boy Scouts from Troop 20, thank you. We're here working on their Citizenship in the Community badge. So good luck to all of you, and thanks for being here. Glad you could be here.
And now moving on to Eagle Scout, Mr. Stewart.
Okay, so this past Saturday, Student Council funded the Diamond Dance, also known as Snowco. It was held at Wisehaven. It seemed like a huge success. There was a lot of people there. I think it was close to 200 people. And then Daniel Lee won the Snowco King, because Homecoming and Prom have the queens. We had a king for Snowco, and Dan Lee won. For the basketball teams, the girls had 2 strong wins against Boiling Springs on Saturday. The JV won against Eastern on Friday, but then the varsity lost by 3 points. The boys lost to both Manheim Central and East Pennsboro this past week, but they're slowly getting better, so that's good. On Saturday, we had a wrestling tournament at York Suburban. It went really well, and there was a lot of schools there. Last Thursday, the swim team had their senior night against Dover. Both teams won, so that's really good. The girls' indoor soccer team lost to a Lancaster club team, FC Fusion, 4-3 on Sunday. It was at Heritage Hills, and this week they play Kennerdale. The Quizball team had a match today against a small school in Lancaster, but they won. Since Snowco is over, Minithon is only like a few weeks away. It's February 24th, which means it's just over a month away. So, full swing, that's the only thing Student Council is working on right now. The line dance that they play every hour is finished, and there's poster making twice a week to just gain support and raise money. The National English Honor Society is having a book drive this week from the 23rd to the 28th, collecting books to donate to multiple charities around York, PA. The past Saturday, there was an SAT. I don't know which high school, but I know we had a lot of representation from our school there. As Dr. Merkel said before, Project Harmony had a Reach for Respect free throw contest and to support No Name Calling Week. And finally, Science Olympiad had a meeting today, and right now we're completely focusing on everything that we're doing for the competition on March 25th. And Mrs. Gensel hopes to get the team to states, which we've never done before. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Stewart? Okay, excellent. Thank you. Let's now go to committee reports, as I've just lost the agenda page disappeared. I believe we're moving to personnel first. No, communications. Academic standards, I apologize. I will regain my agenda here.
I just would encourage board members to stay abreast of what's going on our committee by reading the minutes that are provided from the November 2nd meeting. Other than that, I don't believe I have any. Is there any business we need to share, Dr. Normie? We're good? Oh, yes, I should mention that. Make sure everyone has that on their calendars. Our evening meeting on February 15th over in the big 160, the big room there. That's at 6 o'clock. 6:30. Oh, I'm not very informed. Sorry. 6:30.
That's the annual curriculum meeting?
Yes. So make sure you have that on your calendar.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Schaefer, the Communications Committee.
The activity and communication reports are provided. That's it.
Ms. Bates, Personnel.
Thank you. The minutes of the November 29th meeting are provided. Additionally, you have before you the personnel report, which is a consent agenda, including retirement, resignation, appointment, employment, building reassignment, reappointment of spring coaches, substitute teachers, guest teachers, volunteer spring coaches, and volunteers. Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions? Hearing none, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
I'll move.
Thank you. Second, yes.
Sure. Leopold Sharp?
Yes.
Bowman? Yes. Eden?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Posnell?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
Fryrick?
Yes.
And that concludes my report. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Merkel, but I want to say that now we're beginning to get rid of people that are important or were important in my house, and it's hard to see.
Yeah.
But thank you, Dr. Merkel.
Can I just comment, too, that these are really big shoes to fill. When you add up those years, also have been important at my house, and I just, want to acknowledge those, particularly those retirements as being big losses and big shoes to fill.
I just want to somewhat echo what Lausanne just said, in that two people devoting 56 years of their lives is pretty remarkable.
Huge.
And, yeah. And there certainly will be missed.
I believe perhaps my work is done. It's difficult to say more than that. We have two outstanding educators whose retirement has been announced tonight. Mr. Dave Wickenheiser's been with York Suburban School District for 35 years. Most of those years, in addition to teaching math, he is a track coach and will coach this spring yet. An outstanding teacher, a department chair, a leader. He worked very closely with the association and has been chief negotiator, and just an all-around outstanding role model for our staff, our administration, our staff, our our students. So Dave Wickenheiser will be sorely missed, but we congratulate him on an outstanding career. Also from the math department, so to lose 2 people from one department in a small district like this is very unusual. Dr. Lorena Mummert will be retiring earlier than she anticipated, and that's largely because of a husband who has been battling some illness. But Dr. Mummert has been a fine addition in the math department, has been in education, again, 21 years. So you put those two together for 56 years of math instruction that we will be losing and attempting to replace. So our hiring practices better be outstanding to think about the opportunity to fill those shoes. So thank you in their absence, but thank you very much to Dr. Lorena Mummert and Mr. David Wickenheiser, and congratulations on outstanding careers.
I just want to add to the credentials that she listed for Mr. Wick. He did get one of my children all the way through more than one math class, and that was a remarkable achievement. That concludes my report.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Mr. Toman, the Policy Committee report?
The Policy Committee, the Policy Review Committee recommends board approval of 7 policy revisions as listed.
Is that did you move?
I'm moving, yes.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
One day.
And gentlemen, if you're curious about what these policies say, you can go home, pull this up on the district website. Anything that's in orange is linked, so you could click and see what those policies say if you're more interested. Any conversation, discussion, changes? Then Ms. Mason, a short roll call for this one.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Are there any other committee members, committee chairs who would like to report out this evening? If not, Mr. Robinson, the LIU report.
No report at this time.
No report. Mrs. Fryrick, York Adams Academy.
Other than to say that we have 12 students currently enrolled from York Suburban, and tomorrow night is our winter graduation at 7 o'clock at the York Learning Center in their auditorium, and you are all more than welcome to attend. We have at least 3 or 4 York Suburban students who will be graduating, and I think either 39 or 40 graduates for our winter graduation.
Thank you. Ms. Mason, anything from the York Adams Tax Bureau?
We have our meeting Monday night at 6:30.
Thank you. Mrs. Schrader, York County School of Technology.
Yes, I'll be very pleased to bring back to the School of Technology that we have approved the budget, and just to share with you that Thursday night is our meeting, and the way that the School of Technology recognizes School Board Month is a lovely catered meal.
Ooh,
so I'll be
Whining and
dining high on the hog come Thursday night.
She got to that one.
And that's a
Mr.
part of the
President.
one.
She got to that.
Yeah, she managed
to get that.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any visitors Dr. Merkel, who we want to recognize? We thank everyone in the audience for attending. The board meeting and the committee meeting schedule, there you see the orange link. If you'd like to see our committee meetings are also held in this building, and they are open to the public. You're welcome to join us. Mr. Posnow's Finance Committee meets Wednesday evening this week, if you'd like to come back. Tomorrow evening. So you want to be a school board member, 7 o'clock at Valley View. We'd be happy to have you there. Or your friends or your spouses or anyone else. Unfortunately, you have to be 18, so I don't think any of the young men are eligible, but some of the other people.
There's some dads in the back row
Yeah, I
though
was
that
just
could
thinking
fit
that.
bill.
Are you saying we look like we're 18?
At least. This is the second time in tonight's meeting for public comment. Any other comments that you'd like to address to the board? Hearing none, we stand adjourned, and board, there is no executive session following the meeting tonight.